Hey Emily, it's Miguel. How are you doing today? Well, I'm trying out another thing, so maybe you'll bear with me while I give this a try. So, I was thinking about reading a book to you called A Single Pearl. So, let's get started. It looks like it's by Donna Joe Napoli and illustrated by Jim LaMarche. Looks like there's a seagull flying over the ocean. So the title is Single Pearl by Disney Hyperion Books, New York. A grain of sand fell into the ocean, past so many creatures to the very bottom, where sand went out in every direction for what seemed like forever to the grain of sand. There it is. There's the grain of sand. The ocean bed is huge and important, and the grain of sand, in comparison, I don't matter at all. I am worthless. The grain of sand would have cried if sand could make tears. A hungry oyster drew raw water through its gills, stirring up the ocean bed, filtering out its food from the floating seaweed. The grain of sand got stuck between the oyster's mantle and shell and struggled at first to get free. Then it gave up the struggle, for after all, what did it matter? It was only a single grain of sand. The grain of sand would have curled in despair if sand could curl. There's the grain of sand there. This is a picture from inside the oyster. And there's a fish looking at the grain of sand. But that single grain in that very spot irritated the poor oyster, who protected itself by coating the sand with a shiny layer year after year. The grain of sand felt more and more alone and lost. So, do you see here? Here's the grain of sand as it started, and then year after year, there was a coating applied to the sand by the oyster. And that coating got larger and larger and made the total diameter larger over time. One day, a daring diver put on a nose clip and finger guards and climbed into or onto a weighted bar so his friend could lower him on into the cold sea. So there's the clip on the person's nose. Looks like he's got a net. And notice how there are stones here that are weighing down this wooden plank that he's standing on. He dug up the oyster and put it into his net basket. When the diver got back on land, he pried open the shell and gasped at the glorious pearl. He quickly put it in his pocket. The grain of sand was overcome by all the rapid changes, from inside the cold oyster to out in the hot sun to deep in the dark pocket. The grain of sand would have shriveled with dread if sand could shiver. The diver sold the pearl to a prince for bags and bags of money. So here's the prince, indicated by his turban and his gown. And here are the bags and bags of money that he's taking in exchange for the pearl. The prince, in turn, gave it to his beloved wife, who said it glowed like the moon. She saved it on a slip of velvet in a gold cup until she had a daughter whose laughter was as light and whose face was as lovely as the moon. For the third time the pearl changed hands. The young princess hung it around her neck and held it tenderly. The grain of sand felt her warmth and love. This was where it was supposed to be. This was home. The grain of sand laughed in joy, for anyone can laugh. It was so admired that pearls became the imperial jewel of choice in all Persia. Look at all these pearl hunters underneath the sea. The grain of sand sat in the center of the pearl, and it mattered. The end.